Hello everyone and welcome to our IELTS writing class. My name is Isaac. In today's video, we're going to focus on the IELTS writing skill task 1 of the general training test. I did a video on academic test, the task 1 of the writing in academic test. Now, if you've not viewed that video, I encourage you to do so. You can go to YouTube and type IELTS writing skill by Isaac and you should be able to see it. So, in this video, we're going to focus on the general training text, task 1. Unlike the academic test of the IELTS, in the general training test, your task 1 will ask you to write a letter. So we're going to look at what kind of letters are you going to write and what are you going to write in these letters anyway. So let's see. Remember, we have 2 tasks in the writing part of the IELTS test. If you're sitting for the academic test, you're going to write 2 essays. If you're taking the general training test, you're also going to write 2 essays. In academic test, you'll be interpreting information in a diagram, but in general training test, you'll be writing a letter, and then you have another general question to answer. You're always advised to spend 20 minutes in the first writing task, and then you spare the other 40 minutes for the second writing task. General training task 1, writing. You're to write a letter. It could be a formal letter, it could be an informal letter or semi-formal letter. It doesn't really matter actually, because all the formalities of letter writing that we know in our secondary school won't be there. For instance, you won't have addresses, and your conclusion is not so much taken into consideration. So whether you're writing the formal letter or informal letter or semi-formal letter, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a similar structure. So let's look at when you're supposed to write a formal letter or when you're supposed to write an informal letter or a semi-formal letter. Some of the questions might ask you to write to your manager, write to your local authority, maybe your local government council or your state's council, or just your local government administration. So you might be writing to the officials there. Or you be asked to write to an organization, maybe a company or a market, maybe a business establishment, for instance. So in such questions, you're supposed to write a formal letter. Then when will you be writing an informal letter? When the question asks you to write to your friend or a family member, let's say your younger brother or your mother, you'll be writing an informal letter. If you're writing to maybe a colleague at work, someone you're familiar with, but not so in a casual way. It's not so casual relationship. Maybe someone like a colleague or a business partner, you might write a semi-formal letter to such person. Maybe you know their name, but you don't know them so well. You're not. It's not your family member. It's not a friend. So, what makes the difference in formal letter and an informal letter, for instance? In IELTS letter writing, the only difference will be, or I should say the major difference will be in the salutation. If you're writing a formal letter, then you'll be addressing your letter to maybe a manager or a madam or maybe a sir. So you will start your letter with, "Dear sir, dear madam," or "dear manager." But if you're writing for maybe writing to a friend or to a family member, for instance, you just call that person by their name, or you might just write "their friend," and that will be fine. Remember, the salutation and the signing off or the concluding part is not really what the examiner is looking for. We're going to discuss all of those things that the examiner is going to evaluate your essay on in our video as we proceed. So we say your letter will have these features. You don't need address or addresses. You start your letter with, "Dear sir, dear madam, dear manager, dear John," or "dear Jane," as you like. Then your letter will have a body, of course. You're going to, the points which the question asks you to address in your letter will make up the paragraphs in the body of your letter. And you're going to have a signing off. Conventionally, we do sign off with "yours sincerely," "yours faithfully," and maybe if it's a friend or a family member, you just write your name. It doesn't really matter that much in IELTS how you sign your letter. The main focus is in the body, in the paragraphs you have written. And I should say here again that the writing skill of the IELTS has 4 criteria by which the examiner is going to evaluate the candidate. Now, whether you're writing a short essay or you're writing the long one, you'll be evaluated based on these criteria. And these are the most important things you should pay attention to. Task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. Now, if you look at your answer booklet, the script on which you're to write your essay, you will see at the bottom where it is indicated examiners use only. These criteria are highlighted there, and the examiner is going to evaluate whatever you have written against these criteria. So take them seriously. Just a quick reminder, what is task achievement? Task achievement simply means how well you understand the question and are responding to it. So the examiner is going to see, does your letter answer all the parts of the question? Are your ideas relevant? This point you're making in the course of your writing, are they relevant to the question? Of course, the information in the question will tell you what you are to include in your letter. So you're going to get a clear direction on what you're to write about. And you are always instructed to write at least 150 words. That is a requirement. So don't write less than that. You can write more, but your writing shouldn't be less than 150 words. If you have done that, then you have achieved your task. Coherence and cohesion, here you're talking about the logical arrangement of your ideas. How organized is your letter or your writing? Did you use these connecting devices to connect your sentences? Did you arrange your thought in a logical way so that your writing doesn't come out haphazardly? You should make meaning. how meaningful is this letter you're writing. How meaningful is your writing, and how organized is your writing. That is about coherence and cohesion. Lexical resource is another criterion, and for lexical resource, it's simply about your vocabulary, your choice of words. Remember, every topic, every discussion has its own kinds of words that you should use. If you're to write to, let's say, a friend, to invite them to a party you're organizing, that is, for instance, there are some words you're going to use. But if you to write to, say, your manager at work, seeking permission to maybe travel, there are some words you should be using in such context. Now the examiner is going to see how well you're using the right words. And you are supposed to demonstrate that you have good vocabulary. Your vocabulary is sufficient. If you keep repeating the same words in your writing over and over and over again, the examiner will just know that you have limited English vocabulary. So in the course of your writing, use varied words. The same goes for grammatical range and accuracy. Here, all the elements of grammar, this basic grammatical elements that you learned in your secondary school, your primary school, you're going to show to the examiner how well you understand the grammar of English language. Now, you're talking about your tenses, your verb tenses. You're talking about how well you know how to use punctuations, the type of sentences you're using, your phrases, and if you master one or two idiomatic expressions, are you using them appropriately in this context? So the examiner is going to look at your writing and see if you use a range of grammatical structures accurately, and do you use the appropriate verb tenses and your spelling. Of course, minor errors are overlooked. The examiner is going to ignore these errors if they don't impede the meaning of what you're trying to write. Let's say spelling errors or a verb tense, one or two here and there, might be ignored. But if these errors are repetitive, if they are kind of frequent, then the examiner will know that you have problem with some of these elements. So try as much as possible to make sure your verb tenses are good, your spellings are all right. Remember to spare a few minutes at the end of your writing to go through what you have written. That will help you make corrections. You will be using pencil to write in exam, so you can always erase and write. Just make sure you're not making your work untidy by erasing over and over again. Okay, this letter, what are you supposed to write about? Sometimes you get a question asking you to write to a friend. Maybe you're writing to advise them, or to invite them, or to inform them about something, maybe a development or a situation. Or sometimes you write to maybe your local council authority to request for something. or you may write to make to lodge a complaint. So you'll be writing about all of this. Write about maybe an experience you had and you want to share with a friend. So you write to inform them. I have a sample question and a response, and I'm going to guide you through on how to get a good letter and do it very quickly, because you have limited time. 20 minutes is not enough time for you to write something very perfect. But if you practice, with time you'll be able to master how to write within 20 minutes and get something very good. Remember, if you're looking for a high score, you want to write something nice. It might not be an award-winning essay, but it should be something good. So you need to pay attention to some of these features we're highlighting here, and how you can, maybe you're practicing already or you want to write very soon. So when you start your practice, the things you should focus on. Now, the sample question here says, you recently received a letter from a friend asking for advice about whether to go to college or try to get a job. You think he or she should get a job. Write a letter to this friend. In your letter, say why he or she will not enjoy going to college. Explain why getting a job is a good idea for him or her, and suggest types of job that would be suitable for him or her. Okay. Now you have the question statement. Now the upper part of this question is the statement giving you information, a general information about what you're supposed to write. You have a friend who is seeking your advice on whether they should go to college or get a job. Now, the instruction is telling you to write a letter, and there are points that you must include in your letter. You have to say why your friend will not enjoy going to college now. And you have to explain why getting a job is better. You have to convince your friend in a way. Getting a job is better than going to college now. And then you would like to suggest 1 or 2 jobs that you think your friend will be able to do. If you address all these points in your letter, then you have achieved your task. But let's say you're able to mention why your friend will not enjoy going to college now, and then you didn't explain why they should get a job, and you couldn't suggest in your writing, in your letter, what kind of jobs your friend should get, then you have not achieved the task. That is a partial response. So the bullet point you have in the question are the points you must write on in your letter. So in the course of your response, you must address all those points. So let's look at a sample response and how that captures what is in the question. Before we look at the response properly, I have an outline here that will give you an idea of what is in the letter itself. In the opening part of my letter, I briefly acknowledge receiving my friend's letter. Okay, you write to tell your friend that you have received your letter and I've read it. I know I understand what you want from me. Then don't waste time exchanging pleasantries, greetings, and asking about family and about work and all of that. Remember, you have limited time, and all of what you might uh, want to know about your friend, job, and well-being is not included in the question prompt. No, that is not indicated in the question prompt. So if you take all your time writing to find out about your friend's well-being and job, whether they are moving on well or not, will not help you much. You won't be addressing the task. So once you have gotten maybe a sentence or two to introduce your letter, then go straight to the first point and address it. So in the sample here, I went on to say why my friend won't enjoy going to college now. And then we have a good reason why getting a job is better, and a few suggestions of some of the jobs my friend can easily take up, and then they sign up. So I'll give you some time to read through. Hope you can see this all right. All right, so you can always pause the video and go over it again and again if you want to. But let's see. Dear John, and there's a comma. There is a formal way of letter writing. You put a comma after the salutation. Dear John, I received your letter early this week, and I understand your dilemma. As a good friend, I have considered the situation carefully, and I wish to give my candid advice. Get a job now, gain some valuable working experience, and save some money before you go to college. Because college tuition is expensive, and your mother alone will not be able to bear such a huge financial burden. Remember, she has your younger sister to cater for as well. Apart from the financial implication, college life requires a certain level of experience and skills that I believe you need to achieve. Therefore, if you go to college now, you may be frustrated. All right? Okay? That's my first paragraph. And I have the introduction there, and then the first prompt is addressed right there in that first paragraph. No time. Second paragraph is taking the second point, which is explain why getting a job is better. So let's see. I think getting a job is the best thing to do for now. If you work, you will be able to make some money, get practical work experience, and even secure a sponsorship from your company. And that will make your stay in college more enjoyable when you finally get there. Fine. So if you get a job, you will gain valuable work experience, and who knows, you might just secure a scholarship, maybe a sponsorship from your company. Now, the third paragraph is to address the last point, which is suggest a kind of job that your friend should do. As a programmer, you can easily get a job with one of these tech startups. Many of these companies provide scholarships and in-service training for their staff. So you may not only earn a good pay, but also get funding for your college. I will gladly help if you want to take a job with any of the companies in my city. And I sign up. Okay, this might not be a very perfect sample, but at least it does capture the question point, the point given in the question. So the examiner is going to look at how well this letter addressed the point given in the question. Okay. So about grammatical range and accuracy, and for lexical resource, we're going to get some other in our subsequent classes. We're going to get more practice on that, because there's a bit deep the discussion of grammatical elements. We might not be able to exhaust it in this short video. So we're going to get another class where we discuss in detail the basic grammatical elements that you need to master in order to perform well in the IELTS writing skill generally. Okay, I have a couple of questions that some of my students often ask in class, and I'd like to share some of the tips with you. But before we do that, I'll remind you again to visit just go to YouTube, search for IELTS writing skill by Isaac, and view my videos. Leave comment there for me, that will make me feel good, and subscribe to the channel. Remember to share. If you want to get a private coaching with me, you can do that. You can contact me. But if you maybe want to be in a physical class where you have other people like you, maybe you can interact with other candidates who are preparing for IELTS test, you can register with Exam Planet at Mark 4 Consult. You can register in any of our branches in Abuja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, and Lekki, and in Agege. If you come to the branch in Agege, you will meet me in person, but you can register in any of our branches and you get quality materials, you get good coaches there to help you, guide you through on how to make your practice easier and do well in your IELTS test. Okay, remember, IELTS is a language proficiency test, and as with all languages, English language reflects the culture of the English people. So sometimes you get a question that will ask you to do or to write about something that is not common in your immediate environment. And sometimes most people, especially in those who are not very familiar with the Western culture or the environment in Europe or America, they get a bit confused when they are asked to write on something that is not very familiar, they're not very familiar with. Let's say you're in Nigeria and you're asked to write a letter to advise a friend on how to prepare for winter. That is something a bit strange. We don't have winter in our country. In Nigeria, as a society, we don't, and as people, we don't experience winter. So if you have to write about winter and you've not experienced that yourself, it might be a bit difficult. But don't worry. You don't need to experience winter before you write. At this stage, after your primary school, your secondary school, and maybe your first degree in Nigeria, you want to go for studies in maybe Europe or America, or you want to go and work, you just want to go and settle there, it is expected that your general knowledge will be just enough to help you discuss any topic. These topics are general experiences we have in our daily lives. So don't worry, don't panic. You don't need to have an expert knowledge of a particular topic before you write. You can make up something. Just imagine something. Make sure what you're saying is not just so absurd. All right? So you can make up something and use your general knowledge, your experience to guide you. All the topics are based on general experience. For instance, you have a question like this. Let's move this up here. Okay, you have this question saying, you recently received a letter from your friend who is planning to go for camping, seeking your advice. Write a letter to your friend. In the letter, say what he or she will enjoy about camping, what challenges he or she may experience, and whether you would like to go with your friend on camping. Now, for some of us who are not very familiar with the culture in the Western world, this might be a bit strange, because maybe you've not gone on camping before, and you've not had that experience. And here you are advising a friend on what they're going to enjoy, or what the experience will be like, and how maybe one or two things that they're going to find a bit difficult. So you're supposed to serve as someone who has experienced the life in camp, or who has gone on camping before. But here you are. You've not done that yourself, and probably you've not even heard about camping. So what are you supposed to do? Okay, you can start to prepare for questions like this. You can watch movies. You can watch maybe a TV program. Watching TV programs will help. And maybe reading books or short stories about Western world, or stories that are set, in Europe or America, will help you. Camping in the West is one of the recreational activities. So you're going to just use your general knowledge about maybe having an outdoor activity, and write on that. I think camping is usually done in summer, when the weather is a bit fair, no snow and no rain. So people go out, maybe in the countryside, to set their camps there, their tents there, and just experience the life in the countryside. But you don't need to master to be an expert in all of that to write. You can just get something about outdoor activity. You can use your general knowledge about outdoor activities, like picnicking and maybe hiking, and maybe going out to the seaside on vacation and things like that. You just get that general knowledge will be enough for you to write on a topic like this. All right, I hope you've been able to learn one or two things about IELTS writing. So if you have any question and you need maybe further clarification, you can leave a comment for me and I will address that. So until I come your way again, bye for now.